and welcome to today's special bonus episode. I am beyond excited to be able to interview Charlotte from 1-800-GOT-JUNK today. But today we're not just talking about 1-800-GOT-JUNK as a company. We're talking about how we can divert things from landfill. We're talking about how do we get things from inside your home to where they belong and not just automatically going, well, if it's rubbish and I can't recycle it, it has to go straight into landfill. So welcome, Charlotte.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. It is so good to chat to you. I've got a big smile on my face because I know that our listeners are going to get so much out of today's episode. So why don't you start off by telling us just a little bit about you, like what's your family makeup and where do you live, those kind of things.
Right, so my family makeup is we've just had a baby this year, so I've got a little 10-month-old girl now. My husband and I are owner managers of the 1-800-GOT-JUNK in Brisbane and the Gold Coast. So we operate locally here, but we've got a history of, we started off with 1-800-GOT-JUNK in Melbourne, so I know that one quite well. And here we are today running and managing this fantastic recycling focused business.
So good. So we had an episode a while ago called the Recycling Holding Zone, because one of our listeners spoke to us about, like, what do I do with the stuff that I want to recycle? For instance, soft plastics or batteries or light bulbs, the things that as regular everyday household consumers we can recycle if we go to Officeworks or Coles or Woolies or Red Cycle or any of those places. Because our listeners are really passionate about diverting whatever they can from landfill, but we find that it's also a really heavy burden to find the right solution for all their consumption and decluttering efforts. So tell us, what are the kinds of things that you can declutter and recycle that maybe you wouldn't be able to just in a regular household that you've seen that we can actually recycle in the whole system of recycling?
Yeah, right. So I think one of the reasons why people tend to use 1-800-GOT-JUNK is because we're a bit of a one-stop shop for that reason. When you are just your average household person and you've got a small pile of junk, you've got a little bit of everything to recycle. But if you were to do it yourself, you'd have to spend hours going to all these different locations to drop them off at all the different recycling centres or resource recovery centres. And I think one of the benefits of what we do is we pick up so much from so many different places that we actually deal with it on a tonnage level now. So we pick up we pick up all these different types of junk from all these different people. And I mean, I'm speaking from a local perspective here in Brisbane and the Gold Coast. I know that we focus very hard on recycling as much as possible. So whether it be your metals or your plastics or your wood chip or MDF materials or clothing, we have warehouses where we take everything back to, and then that's where it gets source separated and recycled into the different types of makeup of what the material is. So I guess one of the reasons why a lot of our clients use us is because they can just call us, we pick it up from wherever it is, we load it up into the back of the truck, and then it gets separated. And the client themselves has just saved themselves hours of having to try to call people, pick up things from different, or drop things off in different locations. And we deal with it all for them. As a one-stop shop is what I like to say.
Yeah, it is. And I think one of the things that I know from Kirsty and I with our clients is that they might have just like a little bit of something, like a little bit of metal or a little bit of wood or a little bit of fabric, and it's so frustrating because that ends up being put in a garage or a spare room or somewhere. And they're like, well, one day when I've got enough that justifies the effort, I will take it to the place that I know can recycle it. I know near us we've got a metal recycling place, but like to find one of those places and actually take your metal there is quite a lot of effort.
And is it really worth it for a 20 cents rebate sometimes? I mean, it just really depends how much you value your time.
I think one of the benefits that we wanted to highlight to our listeners today was that you don't have to hold the entire responsibility of making sure that everything that can be recycled is recycled. I think when we find a business that actually can take some of that burden for us, it's worth highlighting, which is part of the reason we wanted to talk to you today, is it's not just that 1-800-GOT-JUNK is an amazing company and a good resource and we can use them to get rid of our rubbish. It's also a place that we can send things to go, I don't have to physically be sorting through everything that I've decluttered. Say it's a deceased estate or you're doing a mega declutter and you've got a skip full of stuff. how nice to be able to send it knowing that someone's not just tipping the whole thing into landfill, they're actually being really intentional about how that works. Do you find that that's a draw card for people that are using you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And I often speak about it with our clients. I say we have these resources, we have these staff members who their one job is to focus on the sorting aspect of it, on the recycling aspect of it. We're constantly trying to find new ways of recycling new or different materials, or how can we better sort something out and recycle it in a greener way, I guess. Our main goal is to avoid landfill wherever possible. So we leave that up to us to do. That's what I always tell the clients. You just point at whatever you want gone, and we'll make sure it disappears and it gets taken care of on our end.
Charlotte, tell me about some of the things that you guys can recycle. So you mentioned wood. What are the other things that you wouldn't be able to recycle? Like I couldn't just recycle in my local curbside rubbish collection.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, I'm going to speak just from a local perspective here because I know the franchise of Brisbane and Gold Coast inside out. So, what we can recycle here is clothing. If it's in poor condition, we have somebody who comes and picks it up and they actually turn it into rags, and then they sell the rags to fundraise for their charity. We recycle, like you said, wood and chipboard materials, MDF materials. We have a supplier who will take all of those things. We recycle soft plastics, we recycle tires, we recycle metal, we recycle paper, cardboard, books. If they're obviously been damaged, we recycle furniture. It's almost you name it, we recycle it. Or if we don't, we actually take it. So whatever's left over from our recycling efforts, we actually then take to a resource recovery centre, and they then sort through and try to recycle whatever they get taken from us.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is what I wish we had known about this years ago, because this is a solution to a problem that Kirsty and I experience daily and our staff experience daily because we're in people's homes. But for instance, one of the things that we often find is like the old couch that maybe someone's parents passed down to them and it's saggy and it's not worth reupholstering and there's nothing you can do about it. It has to leave the house and in our mind go to landfill. Is there anything you could do for something like that?
Right. So again, what we can do with couches ourselves here is it really depends what they're made of. Different fabrics can be taken apart. The internal structure of it, if it's like your sofa beds, you can actually remove the sofa bed from the frame, and then they go to two different areas as well. We can cut them up, or we can, sometimes donate them. There's a few animal shelters as well that will take some of the older couches sometimes. So we really try to breathe new life, or recycle for parts basically with a couch. It's something as simple as a couch or a mattress, even the same thing. There's so many different ways, and actually, you know what, the more I research, the more I speak to people in the industry, the more I find out there are so many options for so many different things. But you really, I guess the thing that becomes really overwhelming as a home, or as the client, is that they would have to be spending all this time just for maybe one couch, whereas I'm looking at a bulk scale of 50 to 100 couches a week, right? So we're constantly speaking to people and finding new ways that people are recycling them in these different recycling centres, and it's fascinating.
It is really fascinating. I've got just an inquisitive question for you. I want to know the biggest thing that you've ever needed to pick up, and what's the smallest job that you've ever done as well?
Right. So I think the largest one we've done here locally was on the Gold Coast. They had this crazy job where they were brought into a marina shed, and it was a shed where they manufactured catamarans. And they had to empty the shed out. Already it was chock-a-block full of just all this stuff, from paints to wood to beams and just all sorts of, I guess, junk. And the main item, though, once you cleared through all the bits and pieces, was this catamaran mold, and it was huge. So it ended up becoming more of a project management task because we had to subcontract some other suppliers for that. But it was absolutely amazing, and it got done really well and really quickly. So we were really happy with that. And that was huge. And we were able to find a second home for it, which was also really amazing. And then with the smallest, I would say, We get often called in for like just the microwave because that's
Oh
easy.
no.
And sometimes people just you don't know what to do with it, or if you're sort of an older person who can't carry it yourself, I guess, and just wants to have a bit of a chat to somebody. We do have a lot of jobs where our guys are trained in customer service before anything. So we really pride ourselves in being able to provide the utmost care and respect to the client. And that involves also having a chat or having a cup of tea sometimes, not really meant to, but they do. And but it's about keeping the customer happy and giving them that experience of customer service that comes along with the junk removal. So we've had a few jobs where it's just been somebody who just doesn't really want to have to deal with the microwave removal, or actually what comes to mind as well, a little box, it was a shoe box of dentures that was removed. That was super interesting. When you open it up and you see what they look like, it's really nice.
Oh, yuck.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, people call us for all sorts of reasons, but I'd say by far, in terms of contrast, they'd have to be the largest and the smallest jobs.
Yeah, that's incredible. A couple of teeth, which I'm sure you
Yep.
sent on to your local nursing home so they could reuse them.
Reuse them, yep, and have a brand new smile that was someone else's.
Oh, disgusting. That is really gross.
I recognise those teeth.
Oh, that's gross.
Have you got a wardrobe full of clothes but somehow nothing to wear?
Would you love to open your wardrobe and know that no matter what you pick, you'll love it?
The first step to creating a wardrobe you love is decluttering the stuff that you don't. Join our free 5-day wardrobe declutter challenge.
Just visit theartofdecluttering.com.au/challenge.
One of the questions I have for you too is I used 1-800-GOT-JUNK at a job just before Christmas, and it was on a super steep block. So steep enough that you couldn't actually drive down the driveway. So even when I had been there, we had to park at the top, walk down this really steep driveway, and we had a fridge, a huge TV and a couch that needed removing. And I thought, you know what, I am not going to attempt with me and my staff to get this out. I'm just going to call 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And I actually wasn't there when they did the pickup because it was out of a session time. How do you guys deal with really tricky spaces like apartments or steps or steep blocks? Do you just have, we're just going to get it done attitudes, or have you got
Absolutely.
tricks?
And I think you have to. Well, we come up with new tricks every day, I would say. It's such an amazing job in the fact that no two jobs are the same. No two jobs access points are the same. So you really, what the team has to do is get on site, assess what the items to be removed are, and then assess how can they take the items out in the safest possible way, but yet the most effective possible way. So the reason people call us, or one of the many reasons people would call us, is because it is a difficult access job, or it's, we go upstairs, we go downstairs, we go around the block, we'll do whatever it takes to get the job done. I mean, an example just came to mind. We did a job last year, actually it was. Well, I can say last year now because...
actually, it was last year, yeah. We're recording now on the 2nd of 2020.
So we did a job, and what the client had done was actually renovate their room and staircase around this wardrobe. And then they decided they didn't want the wardrobe anymore. But unbeknownst to them, the wardrobe no longer fit through the doors because the doors had been completely renovated. So then, the problem solving comes into play. What tools do we need? How can we get these tools here? How can we safely disassemble or dismantle or cut up these certain items? And I mean, the team was able to get it done in a quick and safe way. But I think that's a really important reason as to why people would call us, is we do those difficult jobs and we'll get it done. It might just take a little bit of problem solving along the way.
That's awesome. So do you guys, I know with some skip companies that we've used in the past, like they'll drop a skip off at 9 a.m. and they'll pick it up at 7 o'clock the following night. Is that how you guys work, or do you actually bring the truck, pack it all, and then take it straight away?
Yes, that's right. So we, as opposed to the skip bin where you can gradually fill it yourself, or they may or may not come, or they drop off, we come in with a truck. We have 2 people that are fully licensed and insured, and they will come collect the items, chuck them into the back of the truck, and be on their way. So it's gone the minute that that they leave, basically.
Yes.
We also make sure that we tidy up after ourselves so that you don't see any of our footprints left behind.
That's really important as professional organisers too. We always say we're never going to leave you in more of a mess than we started. We can't promise you'll have a perfect house after one session, but we're never going to come in, make an almighty mess as we start to sort and declutter and organise and then just leave you undone. We'll stay the extra 20 minutes and make sure that it gets done rather than leave you feeling like,
well, that's right. It's overwhelming enough
as
That's right, because it's so overwhelming having all these items and even releasing the items and letting go of them. Although some people feel like that cathartic feeling, others just feel really stressed for letting go of items. So we really try to make sure that after we've loaded the truck, packed it up, closed the doors, that we come back on site and that we make sure that everything is fine, that the customer is happy. If they need anything moved back into the room, like couches or anything, we can offer our service as well to lift those items back into place. So we really try to make sure that the customer is happy at the end of the day, because that's the reason we're there, is to make them happy.
Yeah, and I think that's what I really love about what I'm hearing from you, Charlotte, is that you have customer front and center of mind.
Absolutely.
And their needs are, I just don't want this couch gone, but I want it gone and I don't want it just thrown in landfill. And so your ability to come in and say, okay, I see that your problem is you have a couch you don't want, but also mentally you're carrying a load of where's it going to go. And so you're really combining those so that people can have no guilt in getting rid of things, because we find guilt and social and environmental responsibility is an overbearing responsibility that people feel when it comes to discarding stuff. It's like, I can't just send it to landfill. I can't, like there's this internal drive of that's not right, but without any other alternative, it ends up keeping in their house. So what would your advice be to people that are keeping things in their house purely because they don't know where to send it, and their house ends up becoming a mini landfill in and of itself?
Well, that's right. It's no good keeping it where it is, because it's actually not doing any good to anybody there. It's actually just going to make the situation worse. Even if you just wanted to have a chat, to call our number or go online and send through an inquiry, the local franchise can certainly reach out to you and help the client or you or whoever it is find out where the items can go, how they can be disposed of, or even how they can be recycled in a safe and effective way that's going to help the environment and going to help you at the end of the day as well. There's one of the things I train our local team here, and one of the focus points that I talk to them about is there's the environmental factor that people hold on to the items for, and then there's the emotional factor. People put a lot of emotional value into their items. They'll have memories attached to that sofa. There'll be people and things associated to that sofa. So it's also treating it with respect and letting them know where it's going to go, and that it's not just going to end up in a ditch and landfill, basically.
Yeah, it's awesome. So one of the things over Christmas, I was talking to my brother-in-law who is in waste management, but he's in rural waste management. I can't say that word properly. Rural. Rural. But so 1-800-GOT-JUNK operates only in cities. Is that right?
That's right. So at the moment we are across 6 major cities. So we're in Brisbane, Gold Coast, we're in Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth. And with the local franchises, it's up to the local franchises to see how far out they want to go. I know that from Brisbane, we'll go up to the Sunshine Coast. We go up to Ipswich Way. We basically will go out as far as the job needs to go, obviously for the right price as well. But we'll work with clients if they need us to go rural as well. But at the moment, we're just in the major cities.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good thing to think about if you are in a major city, is you have the benefit of bulk consumption and bulk disregarding. I don't even know if disregarding is a word, but bulk getting rid of stuff. Because when you get rid of a couch, bulk decluttering, exactly. Because your couch in and of itself, if you're in rural area, is going to be dealt with in a different way than what you're talking about, Charlotte, where you can pick up, as you said, 10, 15, 20, 50 couches in a week. And so we actually will have an episode coming up later this year when we're going to talk about rural decluttering and rubbish, because it is really different. There are different types of tips. There are different rules. There are different regulations. a lot of our listeners, though, are in cities. And so there is now, one of the things Kirsty and I say all the time is know better, do better. And now that people know better, they know that there is an option that you don't have to just send things that you don't know how to recycle to landfill. I think there is a burden on us to do better and actually to find ways to recycle things. And when we get stuck, use a company like you guys who have that expertise and knowledge. Because when we're hiring you or using your services, I feel like we're not just using a rubbish removal company. We're actually using a rubbish regenerative or repurposing or diversion. Like, it's a two-pronged business. Yes, my rubbish is gone, but it's not just gone to landfill. And I think that that's a really, really incredible service to offer people.
Absolutely. We are so fortunate in these big cities to have these resource centres and these recycling centres and these little small businesses that focus on recycling, and to have those at our disposal and those, that we're able to just go and work with them. We should really be making the most of it, and people should be recycling as much more than they do, definitely. And it's so easy. We're all for educating as well and for helping out.
And Charlotte, are you on the trucks or are you in an office? How does your role work in the company?
So personally, my role, I started off in the trucks. When we first bought the business 7 years ago, I used to run on the trucks with my husband, and I got very strong very quickly.
Yeah, you would.
People didn't expect this blonde young girl rocking up to their jobs, but it was fun and it was very educational for me. But no, I really enjoyed it. And as the business grew and as the waste management side of it grew, my role came off the trucks and more in the office, on the road, doing marketing, doing some networking, and then also going out to these different suppliers, new suppliers, finding out how do we recycle this item? How do we recycle this item? And then I think once you start asking those questions, people start talking to you about them more, and then somebody knows somebody who recycles this thing, and now it's become a full-time job, to be honest. The whole waste management side of things is full-time.
And that's a really exciting role to go into. Like, I love the physical work of professional organising. I love going into people's houses and, carrying stuff up and down stairs, and, you really work and you get fit and strong. But I also love the research and the office days when you're doing something that's a bit different. It's a really nice mix.
I try, I do love it, but I also love getting in there, like you said, and physically being there. So I do try 2 or 3 times a week. I'm at the warehouse a lot, so constantly shifting, moving furniture and helping out wherever I can. I mean, it's a bit harder now that I've got a little 10-month-olds crawling around everywhere.
You don't want them out in the warehouse.
So she does come everywhere with me, but it's just a little bit more constricting now. But I mean, it's still fun. I still have my days out and trying to keep physically there as well, and being in touch with everything that comes in, because seeing it and being there and making sure that all the processes are being followed as well, and just being on top of it is very important too.
I feel really confident knowing that you guys have our back as consumers, but also have our back as clients, and then on top of that have our back as citizens. Like, there's this whole overarching trust that I feel, and I'm not just saying this because you guys are sponsors of the podcast. I'm saying this genuinely as someone who will use your services, to say I feel like I can trust you to walk in and do what's best for all parties. There's not this bias towards, I'm just going to do what's best for the client, or I'm just going to do what's best for the environment, or I'm just going to do what's best for the business, or I'm just going to do what's best for a certain party. But actually, this holistic thinking this is what we need in businesses going forward, is to be able to think holistically and go, what's the best solution and how do we deliver that?
That's right. I think one of the things we talk about internally a lot in the company is we acknowledge that anybody can sort of put this rubbish or junk or items in the back of a truck and take it away. It's creating that customer experience and making it an exceptional customer experience that we really focus on, because it's, at the end of the day, if you keep just one of those items or one of those people that you mentioned happy, that's great. But there are all these other moving parts, I guess, in that circle. And it's all about having that all around experience and making sure all of those different parts are met and work together. And that's what we try to deliver, or that's what we work towards delivering. And we have a really high repeat customer base and referrals as well. And I think that sort of reflects the fact that we do work so hard on that, creating that whole customer experience. And sometimes the customer doesn't even want to talk to us and doesn't even want to see us. And it's just about getting a job done within the realm of what they're expecting and delivering the experience that they wanted. And every job is different. Every customer is different. They may be super stressed. They may be super upset. They may be just not wanting to talk to you. And it's about respecting that in the parameters of what we're working with. So we definitely, that whole experience that you mentioned is what we focus on.
And how do people get in contact with you guys, Charlotte, whether they're in Brisbane and Gold Coast or elsewhere in major cities around Australia?
Right. So one of the easiest ways is you can just call our phone number, 1-800-468-586, or just the letters 1-800-GOT-JUNK on the old dial phone that had the letters on it. And otherwise you can go online just at 1-800-GOT-JUNK.com.au. There's a little inquiry that you can send through, or you can book a job, or you can just book a quote if you like. We do obligation-free quotes, so we can certainly work with wherever you are locally, and you'll have someone reach out to you and work with you.
Charlotte, this has been such an interesting interview. I'm so grateful for your time. I'm aware that you've got to head off to the airport in a few minutes. So thank you. I hope our listeners, that you guys, as our community, are starting to think broader in the way of getting rubbish out of your home, that it's not just about the skip, it's not just about chucking it in your trailer and taking it to the tip, that there are other solutions that are beneficial to every party involved. Charlotte, you're amazing. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much for today.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, guys. We will see you on Monday for a new episode. This one has been a bonus. If you love our bonus episodes, make sure you let us know and give us some recommendations of who you'd like to see us interview this year as part of our bonuses that are dropping midweek. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks for joining us.
If you've learnt something awesome today, we'd love you to leave us a review on iTunes or Facebook so others can find our podcast too.
Don't forget you can see the show notes in your podcast app or over at our website, artofdecluttering.com.au. So if there's anything you want more info on, check it out there.
If you'd like to join our supporter community, you can do so over at patreon.com/theartofdecluttering.
We hope you have a great rest of your day
and enjoy the freedom.